But if you watch long enough, it is rarely the loud one who truly controls the moment. It is the quiet one, the one who does not rush, the one who does not tremble when tension rises, the one who can think while everyone else is reacting. And here is the part most people learn too late. Calm is not just a personality trait, it is an advantage. Most people believe winning belongs to the fastest speaker, the boldest personality, the person with the strongest presence. They think power looks like force. They think confidence must arrive with volume. So they raise their voice. They hurry their words. They fill every silence because silence makes them nervous. But life has a strange way of exposing this mistake. Because the moment pressure enters the room, noise begins to betray itself. A small disagreement, a difficult conversation, a mistake no one wants to admit. A room full of people waiting to see who will lose composure first. That is when you learn something important about human nature. Most people are not defeated by the problem in front of them. They are defeated by the emotions the problem awakens inside them. And once emotion takes the wheel, judgment quietly leaves through the back door. Have you ever noticed how quickly intelligent people begin to sound foolish when they are angry? How a capable person can ruin a good argument just by becoming defensive? How someone with real talent can lose the room because they could not manage one moment of embarrassment? That is not because they became weak in that moment. It is because pressure revealed what had never been trained. There was once an ordinary man in a small office. Nothing particularly impressive about him at first glance. He was not the tallest, not the funniest, not the most charismatic. He did not dominate conversations, and he did not try to. In meetings, others spoke over each other. People rushed to prove their ideas. They interrupted. They defended themselves before anyone had even accused them of anything. He sat there, listened, and took his time. At first, some people mistook this for passivity. They assumed he lacked fire. They thought calm meant uncertain. But every time conflict appeared, something curious happened. While others became tangled in their own emotions, he stayed clear. While others fought to protect their pride, he stayed focused on the problem. While others reacted to words, he paid attention to patterns. He noticed what people revealed when they were under strain. And slowly, without drama, he became the one everyone trusted when the stakes were highest. Not because he knew everything, because he could still think. That is one of the great hidden truths of adult life. In calm, you do not just protect your peace, you protect your perception. A restless mind sees threats everywhere. A wounded ego hears insults in neutral sentences. A frightened person mistakes urgency for importance. But a calm mind can separate signal from noise. It can hear what was said, not what insecurity translated. It can look at a situation and ask, what is actually happening here? That question alone can save a person years of damage, because most regret is not born from lack of intelligence. It is born from emotional haste. A message sent too quickly, a decision made in anger, a relationship damaged because pride spoke first, a career opportunity lost because impatience dressed itself up as courage. A reputation weakened not by incompetence, but by one uncontrolled moment. People rarely destroy important things all at once. They do it in seconds, and those seconds usually arrive when they are no longer calm. But here is the part most people miss. Calmness is not the absence of feeling. It is not coldness. It is not indifference. The calmest person in the room often feels everything very deeply. They notice the tension. They feel the disappointment. They understand the insult. They hear the disrespect. They simply do not become servants to the first emotion that appears. That is a very different kind of strength. Anyone can look composed when life is easy. Anyone can speak gently when nothing important is at stake. But when a person can remain measured while their pride is being challenged, while uncertainty is rising, while another person is trying to provoke them, then you are looking at real discipline. And discipline in quiet clothes is often mistaken for magic. Consider how many people live as prisoners of immediate reaction. Someone ignores them and they spiral. Someone criticizes them and they burn. Someone delays a reply and they imagine betrayal. A plan changes and they lose the day. It is exhausting, not only for them but for everyone around them. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine becoming the kind of person who can pause before speaking, who does not assume the worst at the first inconvenience, who can sit in discomfort for a moment without desperately trying to discharge it onto another person, who can let silence exist without rushing to fill it, who can hear a hard truth without turning it into a personal collapse. Do you understand how rare that is? And do you understand how powerful? Because the person who cannot govern themselves will always be easier to govern by circumstance. That is why the calmest person in the room often wins, even when it does not look like winning at first. They do not waste strength on display. They keep it for decision. They do not need the temporary relief of dramatic reaction. They care more about the final outcome than the emotional performance in the middle of it. There is a difference between feeling strong and being strong. Feeling strong is slamming the door, sending the message, proving the point, making everyone see your anger. Being strong is knowing you could react that way and choosing not to because it would cost more than it gives. That kind of restraint unsettles people, not because it is aggressive, because it cannot be controlled. The person who must react can be predicted. Press their pride and they will explode. Delay their reward and they will become careless. Challenge their image and they will start performing. Once someone knows your triggers, they do not need power over you. Your reactions will hand it to them. But a calm person is difficult to steer from the outside. They may bend, they may listen, they may even change their mind. But they do not do so under emotional coercion. They choose their response, and that freedom makes them formidable. This is why, in so many rooms, the calmest person becomes the center of gravity. When others panic, people look for steadiness. When confusion spreads, people look for clarity. When emotions rise, people trust the one who is still seeing straight. Not because calm people are always right. They are not, but because they remain reachable by reason when others have gone missing inside themselves. And once you notice this, you begin to see it everywhere. The parent who keeps a household from turning chaotic is not always the one with the harshest voice. Often it is the one who can stay grounded while a child is upset. The leader people rely on is not always the most impressive speaker. Often it is the one who remains measured when a plan fails. The friend whose advice matters most is usually not the one with the strongest opinions, but the one who can listen without infecting the moment with their own turbulence. Calm creates trust, and trust opens doors that force never can. Of course, there is a misunderstanding here that must be cleared away. Calmness does not mean letting people walk over you. It does not mean becoming soft, vague, or endlessly agreeable. Some people confuse peace with weakness because they have only seen two extremes: aggression or surrender. But the calmest person in the room is often neither aggressive nor submissive. They are clear, and clarity has teeth. A calm person can say no without drama. They can leave without a scene. They can correct someone without humiliation. They can hold a boundary without turning it into a theater performance. That is why their calm has weight. It is not borrowed from passivity. It is anchored in self-respect. If you need noise in order to feel powerful, then your power depends on an audience. That is fragile power. Real power remains intact even in silence. Perhaps that is why so many people fear silence. Silence removes the disguise. In silence, you hear your own thoughts. You feel your own agitation. You notice how badly you want to interrupt, defend, explain, impress, justify. Silence forces you to confront whether your peace is real or merely the absence of challenge. And many discover, rather painfully, that they were not calm, they were only comfortable. There is a great difference. Anyone can appear peaceful in favorable conditions. But when disappointment arrives, when plans fail, when another person misunderstands you, when life refuses to move at your preferred speed, your real level of inner order becomes visible. That is why calmness must be trained before it is needed. Not in the middle of the storm, long before it. It is built in small moments that seem too ordinary to matter. In the breath you take before answering an irritating message. In the choice to delay a decision made in anger. In the discipline of not checking your phone every time discomfort appears. In the habit of asking, "What else could this mean?" before assuming the worst. In learning to sit with embarrassment instead of trying to erase it instantly. In accepting that not every emotion deserves a speech. These are quiet exercises, but they build a strong mind. Psychologists have long observed that the human mind under stress narrows its view. It becomes more impulsive, more defensive, more certain of its own distorted interpretation. When emotion rises too high, we do not simply feel differently. We think differently. We become less curious, less patient, less precise. In other words, we become easier to mislead, including by ourselves. That is why calmness is more than a nice quality. It is a form of mental accuracy. A calm person is not automatically wise, but they give wisdom a chance to arrive. A reactive person may still be intelligent, but intelligence cannot do much when it is dragged behind panic, ego, or fear. And here is something else worth noticing. Calm people often appear slower in the moment, yet they move faster in life. Why? Because they do not spend half their time repairing damage caused by avoidable reactions. They do not constantly clean up emotional spills. They do not create enemies out of wounded moments. They do not sabotage opportunities because their mood became their master for 5 careless minutes. Their progress may look less dramatic, but it is more durable. Meanwhile, many people live in cycles of self-inflicted turbulence. They say what they later regret. They commit before thinking. They confuse emotional intensity with truth. Then, when the consequences arrive, they blame fate, other people, bad timing, bad luck. But sometimes the real thief was never outside them. It was reactivity. And that is a difficult truth to face, because it removes the fantasy that our biggest battles are always with the world. Often, the hardest battle is with the version of ourselves that wants immediate release more than long-term dignity. So what does the calmest person in the room know that others do not? They know that not every invitation deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs immediate correction. Not every attack needs to be answered. Not every emotion is an emergency. That last one alone can change a life. Because once you stop treating every feeling as an urgent command, you begin to reclaim authority over your own mind. You start noticing that feelings move, that embarrassment fades, that anger cools, that fear lies, that craving passes, that a reaction delayed by 10 minutes often becomes a reaction you no longer wish to make at all. What freedom that gives a person. To realize that you do not have to obey every internal storm. And let us be honest, much of adulthood is exactly this lesson. Learning how not to hand your day to every passing mood. Learning how not to turn temporary emotion into permanent consequence. learning how to remain yourself when life becomes difficult to manage. That is why calmness feels so mature when you encounter it. Not because calm people never suffer, but because they do not spill their suffering everywhere. They carry it with dignity. They examine it before acting from it. They do not deny it. They do not dramatize it. They transform it into perspective. And perspective is one of the highest forms of strength. There will be moments in your life when your calm will be misunderstood. Some will think you are detached because you are not panicking with them. Some will assume you are weak because you did not explode. Some may even try harder to provoke you because your steadiness makes them aware of their own lack of it. Let them misunderstand. A tree does not become less rooted because the wind is loud. In time, people reveal whether they respect noise or substance. And life, if you watch closely, tends to reward substance in the end. The person who can keep their head while others lose theirs is not merely more pleasant to be around. They are more capable in the moments that matter most. When money is on the line. When trust is on the line. When relationships are fragile. When reputation is fragile. When a single choice can echo for years. That is where calm wins. Not always immediately, not always publicly, but deeply, repeatedly, and often permanently. So if you have spent years believing that you must become louder to be taken seriously, harder to be respected, more dramatic to be felt, allow me to offer you a gentler and more demanding idea. Become steadier. Become harder to provoke. Become slower to assume. Become more careful with your words when you are emotional, not less. Learn the rare art of keeping your dignity in moments designed to steal it, because the world is full of people who can create intensity. Very few can create stability. And the older you grow, the more obvious it becomes which one is truly valuable. A calm mind can listen better, see farther, choose cleaner, recover faster, endure longer. It wastes less life on unnecessary battles. It does not confuse movement with progress. It does not confuse noise with strength. It does not confuse instant relief with wise action. That is why the calmest person in the room so often wins, not because they overpower everyone, because they do not lose themselves. And in a world where so many people are constantly pulled away from themselves by fear, vanity, anger, urgency, and distraction, that may be one of the greatest advantages a human being can possess. So the next time life tests you, do not ask first, how do I prove myself here? Ask something better. Can I remain clear? Can I remain measured? Can I remain in command of my own mind? Because if you can do that, even imperfectly, even more often than before, you will begin to notice a quiet change. Your decisions improve. Your presence deepens. Your words carry more weight. And, strange as it sounds, people begin to feel safer around you. Not because you became softer, because you became solid. And in the end, that is what wins most of life's important battles. Not speed, not volume, not performance. Inner command.
Good evening. Settle in, won't you?
Tell me honestly.
Tonight,
When
I thought I
pressure
might
rises,
recount for
do
you
you
the
become
curious
clearer
tale of the
or
missing
just
inheritance.
louder?